everybody, how's it going? Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I am Auron MacIntyre. Today we've got a really interesting slate of stories. Donald Trump has angered the big clown lobby. That's right, big clown is coming after Donald Trump. We also found out that Elon Musk has been meeting with Curtis Yarvin, so that NRX pipeline is moving even faster than perhaps I had originally anticipated. And finally, Sam Harris has finally found a faith that he can truly believe in, something he can completely embrace. And yes, it does basically violate every principle that he has fought for his entire life. But I bet you can't guess what he was willing to throw all those principles away for. Well, you probably can, but we'll get to it in just a second. Sorry, I know I'm still off camera. I'm mostly over this cold now. Knocked me down for a few days there. I thought it was going to be over it faster. I'm almost through it, but I'm still coughing, blowing my nose a little bit. So I don't want to be doing that on camera. So we're still off camera here, but I should be back on Monday or dead. One of the two. We'll find out, I guess. But let's start with the easiest story first. New York Times came out with a piece. Oh no. Curtis Yarvin is meeting with with Elon Musk. Now, I've talked about this a few times. Elon Musk is trying to start this new America party. He got into this big knockdown drag out with Donald Trump after getting in a knockdown drag out with Donald Trump's supporters. This was always a tenuous relationship. I hope eventually they do patch this up. But he does seem to be moving forward with, at some level, the actual creation of this party. And so he decided to consult somebody who is widely known as a very insightful political theorist in our current day, which is Curtis Yarvin. And of course, the New York Times freaked out. They wrote a piece about how racist Curtis Yarvin is, and he's a monarchist. And can you believe Elon Musk is talking to this guy? And well, yeah, of course he's talking to this guy. Curtis is known for anything being big in Silicon Valley, right? Peter Thiel and these kind of guys, well connected in a lot of those circles. And so, of course, Elon Musk, tech guy, says, I'm going to look at politics. He's probably going to run into Curtis Yarvin at some point. Now, the very funny thing about the Elon Musk Curtis Yarvin meeting is we don't know exactly what took place inside of it. I have no insider knowledge here other than being very familiar with Curtis's work. But immediately after the meeting, Elon Musk unfollowed Curtis Yarvin on Twitter. So it probably didn't go super well, which is exactly what you would expect. Again, I have no insider knowledge, but knowing Curtis and knowing kind of what he would probably talk to Elon about, he probably walked in there and just hit him right away with, "Look, democracy is a joke. It's an absolute clown show, and the third party is just the saddest clown in the troupe," right? Not to play too heavily off of our next story here, but just probably went in there and gave him the very political realist understanding that ultimately you're not going to get anything done. This is a waste of your time. If you wanted to take over something, just take over the Republican Party. Use Donald Trump as a vehicle to the extent that you can. I think that's what Elon Musk ultimately was trying to do, and maybe found out that he did not purchase a politician as thoroughly as he had expected with Donald Trump, and was disappointed in those results. And the fact that the MAGA base also very clearly opposes Elon Musk's what seems to be more or less open borders policy. I mean, don't get me wrong, the legal open borders policy. Elon Musk wants 1 billion Americans, most of them flown in from India, but like legally though. And so that was a big problem for Elon Musk. He obviously got a big pushback during Christmas when he attempted to say we need all these H-1Bs and immigrants. They build everything here. And I can't use the language he used on Twitter, but a lot of F you in the face if you don't want every illegal or you don't want every immigrant here through some H-1B program. And so I imagine that basically Curtis just sat him down and said, this whole idea is ridiculous. And that's not what Elon Musk wanted to hear. So he immediately kind of threw Yarvin out of the boat. Now, I got a feeling that eventually Elon's going to come around on this issue if he actually continues to involve himself in politics. Remember, guys, people can be extremely intelligent inside of their discipline and not understand the general world. There are lots of really, really smart people who have no clue about politics, as we see time and time again. And so, just because Elon Musk is very smart and very capable in other areas, even if he has a decent operating knowledge of dealing with government because of his contracts and everything else he has to work with, that doesn't mean he has an accurate understanding of political dynamics. And Curtis Yarvin is somebody who tells people basically the politics as you understand it doesn't work. And since Elon Musk is basically running like the oldest of kind of bad strategies and trying to do this third party thing, that's clearly not what he wanted to hear when he was talking to Curtis Yarvin, but that's probably exactly what he got when they were discussing this. So he was not super happy probably to hear that from Curtis, but it's the kind of thing that you'd get. So maybe Elon will continue down this road. Maybe the disillusionment is part of embracing the NRX understanding of democracy. So you have to kind of break yourselves on the rocks of democracy first before you are willing to kind of take on many of those truths. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But it was just very funny because the New York Times ran this like, the evil Vizar of fascism, Curtis Yarvin, is showing up to Elon's thing. And it turns out that actually like they just he didn't like him at all and kind of immediately dropped him. So that was pretty funny. All right. So that said, let's get into our actual first story here, which is this article from the New York Times. I promise I did not make this up. This is not fake. It is hilarious. It is stupid, but it is not. It is not fake. This did appear in the New York Times, and the article is entitled "Donald Trump is not a clown. I should know. Real clowns bring joy to the world, not chaos to Washington." So yes, this is an anti-Trump op-ed appearing in the New York Times, pinned by a literal clown. Like it, I know we call this clown world, but here we are. Like this is actual political commentary from a literal clown, not just a clown. To be clear, this is the clown. Okay, he is a professional clown and runs the Clowns Without Borders. So he's a globalist clown. Even better. So we have this globalist clown. He's the head of Big Clown. He's running the clown unions. He's got the clown clout. This is this is the true king of comedy here, and so he is very offended, obviously, that Donald Trump is being called a clown because being clown is not an insult, which is really funny because I think the first aspect of being a clown is probably not taking yourself seriously. But it's politics, and he can opine, so he gets to go in the New York Times. That's the level of seriousness with which the New York Times vets its op-ed contributors. So let's get into the piece here. Tim Cunningham, our author, is the board president of Clowns Without Borders, a nonprofit that performs clown shows for communities facing hardship. Because if I am without water somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, the first thing I want to see is a pasty dude making balloon animals. But here we go. Allegations that President Donald Trump is a clownish figure are not hard to come by. Political strategist James Carville referred to Trump's administration as the clown show after Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem gave an incorrect definition of habeas corpus during a Senate hearing. In response to the president, Joe Biden couldn't anyway. Why even bother? In response to the president retreating from both his heavy tariff plan and his nomination of Ed Martin to be U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, MSNBC commentator Lawrence O'Donnell called the president a humiliating clown. And when the president made himself the focal point of laughter in June by hosting a birthday military celebration to a lackluster crowd in D.C., hundreds of demonstrators across the country participated in Kick Out the Clown, a protest which they describe as a nationwide counter circus to the president's tacky parade. So just wondering here, if you're making fun of a lack of attendance at the military parade, which I thought was pretty cool, most people I know thought was pretty cool, you're hundreds of demonstrators across the country. So you got a couple hundred people across 50 states. So a few demonstrators per state if we're equally distributing this. And you're knocking Donald Trump's attendance when you can't get anyone to show up to your own protests. But none of this qualifies Trump for such a title. I am a clown and a board president of the nonprofit Clowns Without Borders, and I'm here to set the record straight. Yeah, we can't be besmirching the good name of clowns with Donald Trump, right? Yeah, it's the creepy carny workers, usually assumed to be completely drunk and possibly involving themselves in inappropriate activity. Yeah, we wouldn't want to besmirch their regarded character, right? He says, I have performed as a professional clown for 24 years. Uh, I mean, I don't know, man. If you do you, right? I guess somewhere somebody has to make money doing this. But if you have dedicated 24 years of your life to wearing makeup and, you know, uh, making a balloon animal for children, maybe don't be so self-righteous. Don't think that you're somebody who should be opining on the character of the president. Maybe just stick to being a drunk that wanders from town to town to perform at children's birthday parties. Clown with a capital C is a valuable and varied art form. Pantomimes, acrobats, magicians, dancers, stand up comedians, vaudeville artists, and jugglers are all examples of artists who incorporate clown into their work. Is this a real thing where like it's clown? Like they don't call it clowning or anything? It's this really self important, I practice the art of clown. Is that really the verbiage that we're using? I mean, I guess if you've formed a professional society around it, then yeah, you are that pretentious. But again, just as a guy in grease paint who's juggling in front of children, maybe try to back off a little bit there. Whether you know it or know it as clown or not, you've likely seen it from stage clowns such as Bill Irwin to the characters of Cirque de Soleil. Why can't I Cirque du Soleil? Right? Isn't that how you say it? I don't know. I'm not good at this. Created by masters such as Michelle Matlock and Mookie Cornish from pedagogical ensembles such as Pig Iron or Spy Monkey to healthcare clown organizations such as the Laughter League and Healthy Humor. Clown is huge. Yes, clown is huge, I suppose. Clown demands years, if not a lifetime of study. Okay, buddy. Clown requires a lifetime of study? I'm sorry, but what the heck? Like, what are we doing? What are you doing with your life, man? It's already embarrassing that this is something you've dedicated your life to. But the insane amount of pretension and the need to feel to lecture everyone. Like, I know this is the New York Times and this is what it does, right? Like, it runs overly pretentious people attacking middle America somewhere. But you have literally dedicated yourself to the art of being an idiot in front of children, which fine, if you make some people happy, then good, I guess, ultimately. But just really, I mean, I don't know, man. I've done. I would never even talk about my own profession this way. Like I have to dedicate my life to the reading and commentation of on books. Like it's just it's something I do. I do for work. I don't consider it like a sacred art. But I guess I'm no clown, so there's that. Consider the physical curiosity of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, or the impeccable comedic timing of Mr. Bean. What's more, clown is not an invention of the modern era. Several ancient indigenous cultures revere a sacred clown figure. For example, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that word. I guess it's from the Sioux Indians. People celebrate the Heyoka, an honorable community member who uses humor to shed light on societal problems. Yeah, it's called a jester, right? Like, yes, it's true that this is a recurring figure, right? There is a good bit of truth that the archetype itself is important, right? Like that there is someone who can be ridiculous. But one of the things that a ridiculous, the jester does is reveal, the hilarious things the leaders do, right? They shame them by like kind of being able to speak the truth because they are the idiot. That's the archetype. That's the idiot, the jester. They because they are in this position of being a joke, they can say things to people in power that are somehow revealing. They speak a truth that no one else can speak because you can't really hold the clown accountable, right? This is kind of what the Jon Stewart or the Babylon Bee guys do. It's like the clown nose on, clown nose off thing, right? That's kind of always been the problem. They play the role of the clown. Hey, I'm just a clown. I'm a comedian. I'm a joker, right? I'm this archetype of mixing it up, and so you can't really attack me because of whatever I'm saying is a joke. But then the minute that they want to make a serious statement, the clown nose comes off, and it's well, actually, I'm a self-righteous crusader, and I have very serious opinions, and I should be able to debate and discuss and be taken very seriously on the public square. Unless you point out I said something stupid, and then I'm a clown again, and honk honk, look at me, right? Like that, like you can't really argue anything I'm saying because at the end of the day, I'm wearing the clown makeup. If you're trying to take on this archetype, you're supposed to remain funny. You're supposed to remain the fool, right? That's what cloaks you in this ability to speak these truths. The minute you take the clown nose off, the minute you try to be serious, the minute you write an article for the New York Times about the serious nature of clown, you've kind of broken that whole facade. You've broken out of that archetype and opened yourself back up to kind of standard criticism about what you're doing. And so now we're in the scenario where this guy is trying to act as if the very profession he's talking about that goes back for presenting these humorous situations is actually the most serious thing in the world. You can also see here that there's I've always wondered this is a very fascinating problem. So do black clowns wearing traditional clown makeup, are they in whiteface? Is that offensive? If you're a black guy, I imagine there's not a lot of black clowns. I don't think that's probably a profession that a lot of black gentlemen get into. But if you find yourself in the scenario and you put on the white grease paint, is that a hate crime of some type, or are you racially insensitive? Are you culturally appropriating the skin color of the white man? Obviously we see here that this black clown is himself still without the grease paint, but it seems like the woman behind him also is not. I understand that that's not always something that clowns do. So maybe he did. At first I was like, well, maybe he chose not to wear it because of the crowd of Zimbabwean children that he is performing for, but perhaps that is simply part of the uh, of the decision there. Let's see. Back to our article. All clown shares the same common values of healing, empathy, and reflection. So this is there's always this attempt to unify and globalize these things. If you so you notice what he did here. He goes to like, oh, it's an indigenous, here's the tie to this indigenous art form, and you can see it manifested across these different cultures. But then he's like, well, there's this unified value. How do you have a unified value of this deeply particular and cultural tradition? Like, what is that? Did you get together? Was there a clown council? Did you drop the clown Magna Carta? When did we arrive at these common values? Were the tribal ancestors who were being jesters? Did they know about your shared clown values? I've witnessed the smiles that clowns bring to the faces of people in hospitals, war zones, and refugee camps and homeless shelters. I gotta say, man, I get the hospital thing. Look, I find clowns to be a little off-putting, but yeah, I'm not afraid of them. But it's not something I'm going to enjoy. I'm like, oh boy, a clown. But if you're making a kid in a hospital smile, then fine, good, right? But if I'm in a war zone or a refugee, especially a refugee camp, and someone shows up with a clown, no, no, some poor refugee sitting there, like watch his family get blown away, right? Like watch the his children starve, waste away in front of him. But now some dude in like a rubber nose is juggling and pulling handkerchiefs out of someone's ear. No, please don't do that. In May, I traveled to Beirut. See, yeah, no. Traveled to Beirut and work with local clowns. Is there like a local, like an on the ground clown deployment? It's like the the League of Beirut Clowns. Is there? Can you check in with a local clown constabulary? Like how does that even work? To share levity and playfulness with children living under the constant threat of bombardment. What happens if you're bombed while you're there? Like, is it a clown? Is there a clown shelter? What if do your shoes fit when you have to like get into the clown shelter? Is that like a real concern? I don't know. Can you run from the bombing in the clown shoes? What if you're just you is like that would be funny but tragic, right? Like they're like bombing a hospital where this clown is performing for children. He's like running in the hallway and just like trips and falls, and like his seltzer bottle goes spraying down down the hallway. After our shows, their teachers told us that they saw a life in their students' eyes, which they have not seen since before October 23rd. Look, if ultimately they're helping children out, I hope that's the case. Again, if your kid in Beirut and clown shows up, I don't know, man. Is there anything else you could have shown up with? Anything else? But I guess you got to take what you can get at that point. This area of clown is called humanitarian clowning, which Clowns Without Borders has specialized in for more than 30 years. Really, that sounds like a threat. Clowns Without Borders sounds like a sinister organization, right? Like that could be a villainous organization. We are Clowns Without Borders. We are coming to your town. We are taking over. Clowns Without Borders, we are the CWB as it's known, I suppose, has 13 operational chapters around the world. Our budgets are small. I thought it was big clown. What is this? Small budgets? Is there a shortage? Well, is it because they cut USAID? Is that what this is? Is that why we got this article? USAID is no longer funding Big Clown. They had to trim down their globalist clown budgets. The clown bureaus around the world are starved of funds because USAID is no longer doling out this globalist clown funding. Uh, but our reach is broad. We perform for thousands of people living in refugee camps, but we also craft and act for an audience of one. In rural Haiti, I watched a child receive medical care without pain medication to clean second-degree burns on his back, laughed through the procedure because he was distracted by a clown. I was going to make a balloon animal joke here, but I will not because a child was burned. I've seen hundreds of I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Children dance with an ensemble of clowns while their homes in Myanmar smoldered in the background. Uh, had, why not put out the homes? Like you guys, like you have like a seltzer bottle, right? Can you spray the homes? Can you put out the fire? I mean, I'm sure the clown performance is nice, but if their homes are burning, can you help put them out? I seems like the first priority there. Clowns are more than children's birthday party performers. They are not. Sorry. That's sorry. I know you've dedicated your life to this, but no, that is what they are. Um, we help people relax, heal, and prompt others to think differently about the world. First, no one is looking for a clown to relax. Clowns are famously creepy, famously off-putting. Very few people actually like them. In many ways, they are a relic of the past. No one is like, oh, this clown is really helping me to unwind, man. I was so stressed out, but then this really terrifying looking guy showed up and creeped me out. Smelled a lot of cheap booze. That really helped me unwind after my house burned out or whatever. Also, think differently about the world. This is this is the most amazing and annoying thing about progressives. They are all so self-important, right? It's my profession changes the world. My profession changes the world. Everything. I'm always about changing people's minds and changing the way no, you are a cartoon. You are a jester. You are a joke. Literally, you are a joke, a professional joke. You do not help people see the world differently. You're a guy in a creepy outfit doing a handstand. No one is changing their worldview here. You are not changing lives. Maybe you give someone some laughs. Maybe you alleviate a difficult moment. And in that moment, good on you, man. But I'm sorry. No, you are not changing the way people see the world. Get over yourself. Just before the 2010 Haitian earthquake, the Clowns Without Borders was invited to perform in a communal section of Port-au-Prince called Martissant. Two warring gangs controlled the area, but both groups wanted their children to see the clowns. We were granted access to safely perform for both gangs and their children. A collective recognition that no matter who you are, you want your children to experience joy. So this is like the Christmas truce, right? Like both Haitian gangs stop like eating the flesh of their opponents to like watch the clowns perform. Is there does the clown have to worry that he may become a snack? Like what is the protocol for performing for Haitian gangs, which are often celebrating their victories with cannibalism? Like, do you have to worry about that, or are you just so gross that they would never touch you? I don't know. Um, Yet our joyful work has been diminished into an insult. Yes, yes, it is a joke. That's the whole point. Don't take yourself seriously. That's the point. Every election season, the word clown resurfaces to compare tumultuous Washington politics to a circus. Political commentators and social media users are not the only ones who wrongfully sling this jibe. Clown is the most used by almost everyone to belittle those seen as foolish or incompetent. The more we mistreat the word, the more we lose understanding of the sacred art form. No, no. First, it's not a sacred art form. You're not a shaman. You're not a priest. You're not someone who's changing the world. You're a grown man who dedicated yourself to being a joke. Now, the whole reason that there is even a sacred nature to this, I will say there's a sacred nature to the archetype. Again, the fool, the jester, these are real things that manifest themselves across time and space. There is a real truth to them having some sacred significance. However, the whole point, again, the only reason the clown has any role to play in society is that he is the joke. The clown can say things no one else can say. The clown can point out things that no one else can point out. The clown can even make fun of and bring to earth the most powerful people in the world because he's not serious, because he has no social standing, because he is a joke. He is the lowest of the low. And when it comes to pecking order, when it comes to honor, when it comes to social standing, he is the very bottom. And because of that, because there's no lower for him to go, he can make fun of the king. Because the king is going to look silly. The king is going to look like an idiot. The king is going to look foolish himself if he gets mad at the clown. Because everyone looks at the clown and knows that the clown cannot get any lower. There's nothing the king can do to the clown to make him less important, less serious, less, reduce his standing anywhere in society. I mean, he can kill him, I guess, but that just makes him look petty, right? The whole reason the clown has a sacred archetype, the jester, the fool, the reason they exist in that space and are given the power they have is that they have no other power, no other standing. This guy wants to have it both ways, right? He wants to elevate himself. I don't insult my profession by tying us to these bad people. Don't use our names as an insult, but also I should be able to inhabit this sacred archetype. No, you have to choose one or the other. The sacredness of the archetype, ironically, is defined by its low status. So let's find a better metaphor to despise and dispose fascism. Because of course, Trump is a fascist. You see, even though this guy is a professional loser, like even though he's a professional joke, it's important for him as a progressive to take on the battle against fascism, because that's what every one of these idiots talks about constantly, right? Now, of course, if Trump was a fascist at all, guys like this wouldn't exist, the paper wouldn't exist, but whatever, right? Facts are irrelevant. Anything that is not radical leftism is fascism. And so that's just going to be the way that they address anything that opposes them. Keep clown out of Trumpian comparisons. And for that matter, all politics. offer clown the respect it deserves and invoke us for good in alliance with other artists, activists, and humans who believe in a better, happier world. So again, he's an activist, right? That's what he's getting to. At the end of the day, is a political activist who happens to have a clown nose on, which is what all of these activists should have. But ultimately, he wants to inhabit this sacred form of being a joke while having a level of respect. That's not how it works. For centuries, clowns have been uniting people in laughter, levity, and creativity, and that's what real clowns have to offer. If you're still stuck on the broken comparison ingrained in our national dialogue, here's an alternative. Try buffoon. Obviously this is a stupid article, but we've had a heavy week. We've had Jeffrey Epstein, and we've had possible amnesty and all this other stuff. So I thought it would be good to go through the joke here and read this instead. All right. So our other topic for today is Sam Harris. So we can transition to another clown. See what I did there? Okay. So Sam Harris obviously is extremely self-important, right? This guy is known as this, meditation guru and this scientist and this like extreme new atheist, guy, hates religion, thinks it's all a joke, wants to attack it at every step. And Sam Harris spent a lot of time being a part of what many people call the IDW, or these like center left guys who were very progressive, but decided the left had gone too far and started to make inroads with the rights and the right. It's the I didn't leave the left left me types. Now, Sam Harris was always like, all of these guys were bad, but Sam Harris was always one of the worst of these guys. Yes, he would technically attack Islam, and yes, from time to time, he would talk about the need to have free speech and at least let these conservatives talk at universities and don't attack them because we need the life of the mind and all this stuff. But ultimately, he always kept his really, really embarrassing new atheism and hatred for Christianity. And the fact that he truly despised Christians and conservatives was always there under the surface, even though he started attending some of these events and stuff like that. You could always tell he just despised these people. He had to be in the room with conservatives and he hated it. It's very clear. This is a guy who, expected to live his entire life in the New York Times bubble. And the fact that he had to step out of it for a few minutes to schlub it with some of these conservative guys really bothered him. And that was very honest and very obvious. And so, Trump just broke Sam Harris. Anything that Sam Harris had said about free speech and his own principles when it comes to truth and all these things, he threw it in the trash immediately because of Trump. Harris had this famous appearance on Trigonometry, where he basically said, "Look, we had to lie to the public to get rid of Donald Trump. Donald Trump could not be allowed to be in office. He's too dangerous to the class that I belong to. I'm an expert, and the expert class should be the ones ruling." He just basically came out and said exactly what I said in the total state, but thought it was a good thing, right? Like he explained exactly the process I explained in my book. That look, it's the experts that have become in control. It's this deep state, this network of kind of oligarchic actors. They're the ones who really, this managerial elite. They're the ones who really end up controlling everything, not the politicians, all that. And basically, Sam Harris came out and said, yes, that's exactly true. And guys like me, this managerial class, the experts, we're the ones that should be running the country. We're the ones that should be running the institutions. We're the ones that should ultimately wield all the power, make all the decisions. And you plebs, you're voting for stuff that shouldn't matter. Whoever's in charge technically got voted into office. They should listen to us instead. We're the ones that tell them what to do. And Donald Trump is not doing that. He's breaking the system that we rely on. The class of people like me who ultimately should be in power. We're being pushed out by Donald Trump. And so he openly said on Trigonometry, we should be in charge, and that means Donald Trump needs to get thrown out. And it doesn't matter if we have to lie. He was asked about when we found out that the Hunter Biden laptop was very real and that there had been a conspiracy at the highest levels between intelligence agencies and the FBI and social media and all working together to basically cover this up so that Trump would not get reelected. And he said, good, he said, his famous line was like, I don't care if Joe Biden is burying the bodies of dead children in his basement. He needs to be president instead of Trump. Right. I don't care about my principles. I don't care about dead children. I don't care about truth. I don't all that free speech stuff, all of those marketplace of ideas stuff. I don't believe any of it, because at the end of the day, I what I really believe in is my privilege, my class, my people. We should be the ones in charge. We should be the ones running things. And so all of that stuff I said with the IDW, all those debates on what truth is, all of my junk that I feed to my followers about rationality and the search for science and understanding, it's all a lie. It's all garbage. I'll sacrifice it all in a minute, because at the end of the day, friend enemy politics is all that matters. Sam Harris just said that out loud, which is particularly funny because guys like James Lindsay, who also were a part of, this like IDW, I didn't leave the left me crowd. The guys like James Lindsay will flip out when you talk about the friend enemy distinction. But guys like Sam Harris just prove it immediately, right? Sam Harris operates entirely on the friend enemy distinction. He has no rationality. He has no principles. Everything that he does is my team winning or is my team losing, right? That's it. That's all. So all that to say, right, we're rehashing history here with Sam Harris, but he recently had an interview where he revealed something very interesting, because it turns out Sam Harris has found religion. All this attack on religion, Sam Harris has finally found something that he can identify with full throttle. He's gonna embrace it 100%, despite having been a new atheist, basically professionally, like his whole life. He has found what will finally forge him into a true believer. I see some people are already guessing in chat what it will be. But let's play some of this interview here.
A little bit of a personal question, but I mean, you are an atheist and Jewish. Can you tell us how that balance changed or shifted for you after October 7th, if it did shift?
Well, I think it would have been true to say before October 7th that I'm still an atheist. I'm still a secularist. I still think that we're paying an intolerable price for the religious balkanization of our world. So I'm not a fan of sectarianism in any form.
It's great. That's such a great opening here. I'm not a fan of sectarianism of any form. You can hear it, right? You know it's coming, but except in one case, it's coming. I don't like this religious balkanization. I don't like this sectarianism. I don't believe any of this. I can't believe, but here it comes. Here we go.
And I think before October 7th, you could have said that I was not a Zionist, right? Or I was certainly would be willing to call into question the legitimacy of organizing a state around a religion or a religiously identified ethnicity, right? Judaism in this case.
So yeah, I would be against ethno-nationalism, but right, like it's so this is great, because a lot of times people work really hard to avoid describing this as like ethno-nationalism, but it obviously is. It has to be by definition, right? If you make a Jewish state, you're making an ethno-nationalist state. That's what that means, because Judaism is both a religion and an ethnos, which is what Sam is laying out here. It's it's a religious state, and it's a ethnicity defined by a religion. So it's ethno-religious identity. And, I would have been against ethno states before, except now it turns out, even though I'm an atheist who doesn't believe any of this, and I'm against tribalism and sectarianism and all of this stuff, now I've discovered perhaps.
I think I released a podcast some years ago titled, why don't I criticize Israel? ?
Yeah, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and there I gave a fairly equivocal and frustrating defense of Israel, but I mean I was troubled by as someone who believes that we are paying this intolerable price for sectarianism. I was troubled by the seeming contradiction in defending the Jewish state, and for me it just nets out to the only real defense is the ambient level of genocidal intolerance that's directed at Jews, right? I mean, just the
So Sam Harris was, he had his principles. He's an atheist. He didn't identify with any of this Jewish identity, right? He didn't have the religion. He didn't believe in the, in the ethnicity as like a collective, because he doesn't believe in collectives, doesn't believe in tribalism, thinks that religion is driving these factional wars, and they're the ones creating all of this issue, and we're just going to get rid of it, right? And then everything will be fine. Except what Sam discovers is that his world is never coming around, and actually people are going to continue to be religious, and they're going to continue to live in tribes. And so Sam's not going to admit that, he's wrong about any of the religious stuff, or that his attacks on sectarianism for everyone else are a problem, right? It's that he's not going to acknowledge that there was a wider epistemological failure to understand the forces he was trying to navigate. He's not going to acknowledge all that, but because he just noticed that some people are mean to Jewish people. However, now he's going to support this. Now, again, there are, of course, people who say awful things about Jewish people, who do have vitriol in their hearts towards that. And I decry all ethnic hatred as a Christian. You should not hate people because of their ethnicity. But Sam Harris didn't notice all the other hatred for other ethnicities, which is pretty interesting. We'll get to that in just a second here.
And yet before October 7th, even there, I felt like I was paying lip service to the legacy of the Holocaust without really having my heart was really not quite in it, because it still seemed kind of hypothetical to me. And because in my life, anti-Semitism has not seemed like a real variable at all. And apart from the Islamist version of it, it seemed to have been, more or less fully defanged, the world over.
So Sam here admits that actually he has experienced little to no anti-Semitism in his life. He's lived in the West, specifically in the United States, I think, his entire life. And so here in the United States, anti-Semitism has had no negative impact to him. He hasn't really experienced it. He hasn't got a lot of violence or attacks. He hasn't been driven, lived in this, majority Christian nation his entire life and been tolerated, and in no way felt any kind of attack. He knew out there somewhere Islam was hating on, Judaism, but in the United States he just didn't experience it, and so this isn't an issue. So you have to ask yourself: did Sam ever ask himself why it wasn't an issue here? Is there something about the character of America? Is there some aspect of America that delivered this? No, he just kind of took it on and didn't see the need to bother with it, right? It wasn't really an issue.
But given October 7th and given the response to it in the West, both on the left and on the right politically, but even most especially on the left, I mean, that was the most surprising. Yeah, I'm really, just kind of an unapologetic Zionist at this point. I mean, just like who.
So now Sam, and again, I want to make this clear. Sam has already described Zionism as ethno-nationalism. That's what Sam has said it is. Okay, this is not the the Gentile saying this. This is what Sam has described Zionism as. That is his understanding as he just laid it out of Zionism. He says it is ethno-nationalism, and I am now a proud ethno-nationalist. This is a guy who's called Trump fascist. Oh, we've got to watch out. Fascism is coming. Oh, and yet now Sam has openly declared himself a proud ethno-nationalist. And the really interesting thing about this is, again, whether I don't think I've missed anything here. Sam has been in America his whole life. He was here for 9/11. He watched on 9/11 when thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans were murdered. Right? Did I miss this? Sam Harris was here for this. He wrote entire books in the wake of it about the dangers of religion in general and Islam in particular after 9/11. And yet, Sam, being an American and living in the United States and watching 9/11 when thousands of people died, did not feel the need to become some kind of strong ethno-nationalist for America, or even just an American nationalist in general. I don't think Sam would in any way describe himself as a nationalist or an American nationalist, right? But having watched people die, and I would like to be clear here, it is a tragedy that people were killed in those terrorist attacks. Every one of those deaths is horrific, okay? But much fewer people died in the terrorist attacks on October 7th as opposed to 9/11. Just magnitude-wise, it is very clear that far more people died in 9/11. 9/11 was objectively worse as a slaughter of countrymen for Sam Harris. So just by the magnitude of the people killed, 9/11 should have had the greater impact. It's his country. It's his country. In theory, right? It's his country. His countrymen died. Thousands of them. Far more Americans died. And yet, he becomes an ethno-nationalist for another nation that is not the one he lives in when fewer people were killed there. Again, I am not trying to say that the terrorist attacks on October 7th were not horrific. They were, and Sam is right to be worried about them, is right to feel angry about them. But if you are more angry about those attacks than you were about 9/11, which happened in your country, the country you were born and raised in, the one you have lived in your whole life, and the attacks in which way more people were killed, if that did not drive you towards some form of American nationalism, but the attacks across the world, in the Middle East, in a country you do not live in a religion you do not believe in, if those attacks turn you into an ethno-nationalist, I have questions. Sorry, I have questions. What is going on here? Okay? What is happening? Why is this new atheist who hates the right, who hates the idea of nationalism, who calls everyone a fascist, why is he suddenly an ethno-nationalist for this state? Again, if it was just a terrorist attack, I get it. Terrorist attack by Muslims against your people, that would make me angry too. It did on 9/11 when I saw it in my own country. And you can bet it definitely riled up my nationalism. So I understand becoming a nationalist over this, but why didn't you do it for this country? Why are you so opposed to nationalism for this country? Why are you attacking Donald Trump for being a nationalist? Why are you calling the right fascist for wanting to have an American nation with an American identity? Why are you so against the identity of Americans, but you are pro, which you admit to be an ethno-religious identity for a nation state in the Middle East that you don't live in? I think there are fair questions with a guy like Sam Harris, who has had this record throughout his whole life.
Who can be counted upon to defend the Jews but the Jews? I think that's a question that for which you have to err on the side of the most cynical and depressing answer, which is only the Jews can at the end of the day be counted upon to defend themselves. And I think they should have the right to do that. And having a Jewish state seems like certainly at the moment the only rational backstop to that project.
A little bit of a personal
And
question.
I'd like to be clear here. I agree with Sam. The Jews should have a right to have their own nation, and they should have a right to defend that nation. Many people will be angry about the way that they have defended that nation. Many people will say they've gone too far in what they see as the defense of their nation. I'll let people argue about that fact. I was actually just on Scott Horton's podcast recently. You can check that out. He's a guy who makes that case if you want to hear that side of the argument. But ultimately, I agree with Sam. They should have a nation and be able to defend it. And if you believe the only people who will defend Jews are Jews, then you can go and be there and be defended, right? That seems reasonable. But Sam does not believe this about any other people. He does not believe this about Americans, even though he lives in the United States, even though he has spent his entire life here, even though he's undergone periods where we have had terrorist attacks and thousands of people died. from Muslims the same way they did in the attacks on October 7th. But he did not feel these feelings then. He still attacks people who have these positions in the United States now. He has one standard for Israel and for Jewish people, and another standard for America and its people, even though he lives in America. And this is insane. And if you want to understand why people have an issue with some of these positions, looking at Sam Harris is a pretty good example, because Sam has literally betrayed everything he believed in and everything he stood for. He's an atheist. He's a leftist. He's against nationalism. He's constantly attacking people, calling them fascist. He said he wanted free speech, and he's betrayed every one of these principles, right? He's willing to embrace an ethno-religious identity as long as it's the one he belongs in. He's for ethno-states as long as it's the one he wants to defend. He's okay with censorship as long as it gets rid of the candidate he doesn't like. He's okay with anything as long as it serves his identity. Because at the end of the day, Sam Harris may have become an atheist. He may have lived in America his entire life, but his identity as he sees it is somehow tied up here. And that's crazy. Like, if Sam felt the same way about the United States, he would be saying we should have American nationalism. America should be able to defend itself. The only people who are going to defend America are Americans. And so America should be able to be constituted as a state, as a nation. It should have an identity it's allowed to defend. If Sam felt the same way about the place he lived in, he would just say that. Instead, he attacks everybody who even comes close. Anyone who says they're nationalist, Sam hates. Anyone who says they're nationalist, Sam calls a fascist. But he will embrace ethno-nationalism. He has, explicitly, despite everything else he believes in. He's willing to throw away his entire life's work, his entire reputation, everything, to say, yeah, I think Israel should be able to operate in this way. And again, he's fine to say that. Ultimately, it's fine for him to understand that he thinks Israel should exist in that way. I'm just asking, why the double standard? Why does the double standard exist? Why does he see this for Israel, but he can't see it for the place he lives in? What is going on here? I think that if you continue to behave in this way, people are going to continue to ask these questions, because it's very mysterious that a guy like this is willing to throw every little bit of his reputation and all of his principles that he's written books about, and he's done endless hours of podcast interviews and all these things. He's appeared on major television shows to defend these positions. He's willing to throw it all in the garbage over Trump and over Israel. And that just seems insane to me, because also, like, Trump is the biggest Israel booster in the world. Trump loves Israel, and Sam hates him because it's all friend enemy, right? It's all friend enemy. He knows what side he's supposed to be on. He knows what side his identity is supposed to put him on. And so he just goes to it. Principle means nothing to Sam. He will throw it all away in a second if his instincts tell him he's supposed to be on a specific side with certain friends. And that's it. That's all there is to it. There's nothing else behind it. All right, guys, let's head to the question of the day. We've got looks like at least a super chat over here. So let's take a look at the questions of the people. And here, let me get rid of this video so you can actually read it. Tiny Stupid Demon says, this reminds me why nobody actually likes clowns, and they are mostly fodder for horror movies. Right, yeah, at this point, famously, you see more clowns in horror movies than you see in children's movies, because nobody likes them. And yet, here we have a clown. I bring all this joy to the children, and it's a sacred profession, and don't besmirch my name by comparing me to Donald Trump, because I practice the clown. And that is the sacred art that should not be besmirched by the presence of this fascist Donald Trump. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, just taking it nice and easy on Friday. Hopefully finally over this being sick by next week. And just needed to take a break from all the seriousness. So glad we could dive into a couple of clowns here on the show today. If it's your first time on YouTube, of course, guys, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell, notifications, all that stuff, so you know when we go live. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, make sure you subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform. And when you do, leave a rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And as always, I will talk to you next time.